a $3.9 billion project to replace Air Force One by 2024 with two custom Boeing 747-8s has fallen years behind schedule since its 2018 launch. It's 2026 now. The planes are still sitting unfinished in a hangar in San Antonio, Texas. Total program costs now estimated to exceed $5.6 billion. The new Air Force One designation is VC-25B. It's based on the Boeing 747-8, the stretched final version of the famous 747, the jet people once called the Queen of the Skies. It should be a larger aircraft with newer systems, better communications, upgraded electrical power, a medical facility, self-defense systems, and the ability to operate more independently around the world. Instead, it became one of the most awkward prestige programs in modern U.S. aviation. To understand the new Air Force One, you have to understand the old one. Presidential air travel didn't begin with the glamorous blue and white jets. Purpose-built for Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1944, the VC-54, called the Sacred Cow, became the first aircraft specifically designed for presidential use. It even had a battery-powered elevator, because Roosevelt used a wheelchair. Aircraft carried him to Yalta Conference in February 1945, one of the most important wartime meetings of the century. That aircraft later carried Harry Truman. Aboard it on July 26, 1947, Truman signed the National Security Act of 1947, which created the independent U.S. Air Force. Then came Truman's VC-118, the Independence. Then Eisenhower's Columbine II and Columbine III. The phrase Air Force One came later in 1953, following a call sign confusion incident. Ever since then, the term has meant any Air Force aircraft carrying the president, a call sign that jumps from aircraft to aircraft the moment the president steps on board. Then the jet age arrived, and everything changed. Once President Kennedy's Boeing VC-137C, tail number 26,000, entered service in 1962, the modern age of Air Force One became visually immortal. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy and First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy worked with industrial designer Raymond Loewy on a new look for the presidential jet. The design process was surprisingly hands-on. Loewy reportedly met with the president in the Oval Office, where they sat on the floor with crayons and paper scraps to sketch out the blue, white, and polished metal livery. For more than 60 years, that design became one of the most recognizable political silhouettes in the world. This was the aircraft that carried Kennedy to Germany for his famous Ich bin ein Berliner speech. And it was also the aircraft on which Lyndon B. Johnson took the presidential oath after Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas on November 22, 1963. That single airplane saw one of the darkest transitions in American history. Then came Nixon. In February 1972, Nixon made his historic trip to China aboard SAM 26,000. SAM 27,000 entered the fleet later in 1972 and became the newer presidential aircraft afterward. That plane also served as the Flying White House for President Reagan and 6 other U.S. presidents from 1973 to 2001. And then came the current 747s. The first VC-25A flew as Air Force One in 1990, carrying President George H.W. Bush. It means the aircraft still in service today were designed in the late Cold War and entered service before the iPhone, before widespread internet use, before social media, before modern cyber threats became the daily reality they are now, which is exactly why replacement became unavoidable. So yes, George H.W. Bush used them. Then Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden. Now, President Donald Trump is still waiting for the replacement to show up on time. And don't forget that old aircraft became old, if not obsolete, mechanically.
I'm old, not obsolete.
They are specifically configured Boeing 747-200Bs. Each one is 231 feet 10 inches long, with a wingspan of 195 feet 8 inches. Each can cruise at about 630 miles per hour, climb above 45,000 feet, and carry more than 70 passengers with a crew of around 30. And yes, they are still formidable machines. But parts get harder to find, maintenance takes longer, old airplanes become more expensive, fragile, and annoying in exactly the same way old critical infrastructure always does. The real question was, what do you replace it with? In 2015, the Air Force started shopping for replacements. The requirements were brutal: long range, 4-engine wide-body aircraft, high capacity, American-made, and capable of being modified into a flying fortress. Only one plane in the world fit the bill: the Boeing 747-8, the last and largest variant of the famous jumbo jet. But here's where it gets strange. The Air Force didn't order new planes from Boeing's factory. Instead, they bought two 747-8s that had already been built, reportedly with a steep discount. The exact price has never been officially disclosed by the Pentagon. Planes originally were ordered by the Transaero airline, which went bankrupt in 2015. But they had been sitting in storage ever since, unwanted. And buying the airframes was the easy part. Turning them into Air Force One, that was going to cost billions. The replacement should have been simple. Take a bigger, newer 747, turn it into the new Air Force One, done. That's not what happened. December 6, 2016. President-elect Donald Trump tweets, "Boeing is building a brand new 747 Air Force One for future presidents. But costs are out of control, more than $4 billion. Cancel order." Cable news went into overdrive, and Trump, never one to let a moment pass, doubled down in front of cameras later that day.
I think it's ridiculous. I think Boeing is doing a little bit of a number. We want Boeing to make a lot of money, but not that much money.
Trump's $4 billion figure captured the total program cost, including R&D and support facilities, rather than just the aircraft. But Trump wanted a headline, and he got one. Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg met Trump at Mar-a-Lago to discuss Air Force One costs, and later, Trump emerged victorious, saying he'd personally renegotiated the contract and saved taxpayers billions. The new deal was $3.9 billion firm, fixed-priced contract. No overruns, Boeing would eat any extra costs. Here's what most people don't understand. You can't just buy a 747 and paint it red, white, and blue. Air Force One is a heavily modified presidential transport aircraft and airborne command center, with military avionics, secure communications, and self-defense systems. The upgrades are staggering. Start with the skin. The entire fuselage has to be reinforced and shielded against electromagnetic pulses. Every wire, circuit, and antenna has to be hardened. Then there's the communication suite. Air Force One has to talk to everyone. Satellite uplinks, encrypted radios, secure video conferencing, as well as nuclear submarines, NORAD, the Pentagon, and allied governments. It has to work during a cyber attack and even in the event of a nuclear war. The communication systems alone cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Next, defense. Countermeasures for missiles. Chaff dispensers, flare launchers, radar jammers, infrared suppression on the engines. Some of the systems are so classified that only a handful of people know what they actually do. Then there's the interior that resembles a White House, but with wings. A presidential suite with a bed, shower, and office. A secure conference room. A medical suite with a surgical table and life support equipment. Workspaces for dozens of staff, Secret Service, and journalists. Galleys capable of feeding 100 people. All of it has to meet presidential standards, luxury mixed with military-grade durability. This is rebuilding a 747 from the inside out while keeping it looking like a normal plane on the outside. Boeing knew this going in, but they agreed to a fixed-price contract anyway. Now let's talk about what will actually be different on the new planes. The VC-25B starts with a much bigger body. The 747-8 is 250 feet 2 inches long. That makes it about 18 feet 4 inches longer than the current VC-25A. Its wingspan is 224 feet 5 inches, compared with the 195 feet 8 inches for the older plane. The new Air Force One is physically larger. Bigger rooms, more equipment space, more flexibility, more margin. The aircraft is basically a presidential office building stretched across a longer frame. The layout is split into 3 levels. The bottom level is the cargo hold. This kitchen can store enough food to feed 100 people for a week without landing. The middle level is the White House. This includes the president's executive suite with a bedroom, private office, dressing room, and a bathroom with a shower. Further back is a medical suite. It has a surgical light, a pharmacy, and a treadmill. There's always a doctor on board. The current Air Force One has a small rectangular door right in front of the cockpit windows. That's the refueling probe. It allows a tanker to fly above and pump fuel while moving at 500 miles per hour. This means the plane can stay in the air indefinitely. In the new planes, that capability is gone. The White House decided that the 747-8's natural range, about 8,900 miles, was good enough. Oh, and the cost of installing the refueling plumbing was too high. And then came the delays. One piece of it was the pandemic. Boeing and suppliers got hit by the same labor and supply shocks that hammered the rest of aviation and manufacturing. Another piece was the collapse and conflict around suppliers, including interior work. Then officials were still pointing to supplier failures, including companies that had simply gone out of business. Also, Boeing was dealing with unresolved design issues that contributed to excessive cabin noise, along with other problems involving temperature, incomplete wiring, and rework. By early 2025, officials were warning the aircraft might not arrive until 2029 or later. And in December 2025, the Air Force publicly shifted the first delivery target to mid-2028. That was an improvement only in the sense that a storm moving from category disaster to still bad is technically good news. As of now, mid-2028 is the key public milestone. But after this many slips, no one should speak of the exact date. There were also embarrassing production stories in 2021 and 2022 involving empty tequila mini bottles found on one of the aircraft and the use of jacks not rated for the plane's weight, though the aircraft was ultimately found undamaged. There was even a side drama over the paint. Donald Trump had pushed for a darker red, white, and blue livery during his first term. Later, under President Biden, that design was scrapped after concerns that darker colors could create additional engineering and thermal issues. Then, in February 2026, the Air Force unveiled a new scheme for the executive fleet with red, white, and dark blue and gold elements, drawing partly from Trump's earlier concept. The service didn't explain publicly how the previous heat concerns had been resolved. On this airplane, even the paint can start a technical argument. The real ending for now is messier. The delays are so bad that the Air Force just had to accept a gift in 2025 from the Qatari royal family, a luxury 747-8, to serve as an interim aircraft. The plane in question is a Boeing 747-8I BBJ, Boeing business jet, formerly part of the Qatar Emiri flight, the fleet that moves the Qatari royal family. Before it was gifted, this plane was essentially a flying palace. It features a master bedroom and guest bedrooms, fixtures made of sycamore and wakapu wood. Why did Qatar give it away? On the surface, it was a diplomatic gesture to the Trump administration during his 2025 visit to Doha. But the common analytical conclusion suggests a more practical reason. Qatar, like many nations, is moving towards smaller, more efficient twin-engine jets like the 787. Maintaining a 13-year-old 4-engine jumbo jet is incredibly expensive. By gifting it, Qatar offloaded millions in annual maintenance and storage fees, while most likely gaining at least some political leverage with the United States. President Trump defended the gift, calling it a very nice gesture that would save taxpayers money. But the Pentagon quickly realized you can't just take a foreign plane and fly the president in it tomorrow. The US government tapped L3 Harris to overhaul the former Qatari 747 for interim presidential use while Boeing's main VC-25B program remained delayed. The jet may have been offered at no cost to purchase, but converting it into a secure presidential aircraft could still cost hundreds of millions of dollars. The aircraft would require major security upgrades, communications improvements, and defensive modifications before presidential use. But experts warn that Air Force One's survivability is built into its design and can't be quickly replicated, meaning the Qatari jet may require fighter escorts or be limited to domestic use without major upgrades. Where's the plane now? it's undergoing rapid modification. The goal is to have the Qatari jet ready for service by the summer of 2026. While there's no official date yet, it is reasonable to assume that the target is the US 250th anniversary on July 4th. Separately, in December 2025, the Air Force bought 2 additional U-747-8 aircrafts for $400 million to support training and spare parts as it prepares to move away from the old 747-200 fleet. The government is building a bridge into the future, while the actual future is still stuck in the shell. And while everyone argues about schedules, costs, and colors, the old VC-25As keep doing their job. That may be the most respectful part of the whole story. The aircraft from 1990 and 1991 are still carrying presidents because crews, maintainers, planners, and support teams keep squeezing reliability out of machines older than some of the staff traveling aboard them. If you've ever kept an old truck running because the replacement was late, congratulations. You already understand part of the Air Force One program. Right now, the new Air Force One is still not flying the president. The replacement program, called VC-25B, is now officially targeting mid-2028 for the first delivery, which means it's about 4 years behind the original 2024 target. The planes are still being modified in San Antonio. These planes are essentially relics in waiting, built on the discontinued 747-8 platform and arriving years behind schedule, means sustainment will likely be more complicated and expensive than anyone originally wanted. And after this saga, it's fair to wonder whether Boeing will remain the default choice for the next presidential aircraft program. Subscribe if you want more stories where politics, money, and technology crash into one unforgettable object.